Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly Q&A thing. This is season 14, episode 18. We are in the season of... What are we calling this season again? It's going through characters that we think are coming up.
Yeah, so we're doing it before instead of after. So we're getting a chance to play with them as sort of a bit of a sneak preview for the weekly recap.
Do we have a zingy name for it, or is it just...
Season 14.
Yeah, okay. So, no, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes. So, do you want to talk a little bit about who we're seeing?
All right, so this one's really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Red Lantern Hal Jordan. And as much as a character can be controversial in this, I think there is at least a certain degree of controversy with Red Lantern Hal Jordan.
Yeah, I think right off the baseline, this is a character that they were trying to do something more interesting with in terms of their design. And right. I think there's an actual, there's something to be said for making something kind of weird, right?
Right.
And I think it's cool, for anybody who doesn't know, the baseline is that using specials costs health instead of power.
And you can never regenerate health the way you can regenerate power.
Yeah.
The advantage of that was supposed to be that you would have power immediately available to you through your health.
And it almost works like that now, but it doesn't.
So when he was first released, so this is a bit of an oral history, right? And we've talked about this a bunch, of people who've played for a while know this too. When he was first released, he was better. The less obvious part was that he would actually do more than the stated damage for a special 2, which is great. And that because he was using his health as a proxy for power, then he just could do a special immediately after. He didn't have to recharge. He didn't have to build up. Boom, 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 boom. It's the instant you finished one special, the same way that you can with, say, Tantu Totem, where you get your power back immediately after the special finishes and it didn't do any damage. Exactly the same. So the advantage you would get with that is if you paired it with invulnerability, say John Stewart Green Lantern, or much better would be Astro Harness. You could do almost unlimited supers because the in-game time for super was really short.
Yeah.
But even though the sort of real-life time for supers was long, so you could do supers repeatedly. And it would have been, I feel like this was before we had not breakthrough, sorry. Oh my gosh. The 2-week event where you have the
Phantom Zone.
Yeah. So you would have been able to satisfy the requirements for super in, I think, one fight. So how they nerfed him was, so instead of having the more than stated damage, and instead of actually correcting it to what the stated damage should be, they reduced it to less than the stated damage. And the power bars, as soon as you use a special, doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, or 3 bars, all of it's gone. And you can't do anything until you actually have the power bar recharge to the level that you want to do. So during the invulnerability, from a practical point of view, you can see this in some of the fights, during the invulnerability, you have the chance to really do either a super, special 2, or special 1 before following it with a special 1. And most of the time, if you get the timing right, you can do those 2 things for free at no cost, because the invulnerability means that your health doesn't drop. The problem with him, though, is that his special 1 is reduced damage because of the power drain, and his special 2 is reduced damage for the damage over time, right? Because pretty much all specials, with a few exceptions, have reduced damage if you have a secondary effect. So what's different about this team too is, because those are all things that we've known for a while, what's different about this team, and what we're trying to do that's a little bit interesting, is to not make him a gear shatterer. He's very useful that way, because when you give him Claw of Horus plus Enchantress companion gear, he tags in, and you can basically, with 2 special 1s, immediately shatter all the gears on the opponent. New 52 Wonder Woman is actually the gear shatterer. She doesn't give him any power. Nobody else can give him power. Nobody else can give him health. But she's just better at it because her special 1 is so fast, so that her special 1, she can unload 3 of them during a full invulnerability with Astro Harness. And that is just so much more effective. And I've realized now, you'll see, I'm not sure which footage I'm going to put in this fight. I'm definitely going to put in the most recent one where I'm trying to use him to intentionally use him to do damage. And you can see how he's got enough power if he's facing opponents that are comparable to him that he can knock out 2 of the 3 opponents on his own before he runs out of health.
Yeah.
So he's still pretty good. But part of it means you need to leverage how much damage he's doing. So that's why he's got Quake Engine to increase the amount of damage he does with his special 2 on just the damage over time, and even more if he gets the bonus for being against an opponent that has less than 1 bar of power.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's good. He's not great. He used to be great. And this is one of the principles I think that the dev team overlooked when they nerfed him. Because I think early on there was a lot of complaints about how he was just so super overpowered. And he was, if you were using him in offense.
Yeah.
But he wasn't on defense.
And I also think one of the things, too, is that it's even less necessarily that he's overpowered and more that when you're using specials over and over again, that might be a slightly less compelling or less interesting gameplay loop, right? Normally, there's sort of an ebb and flow, and somebody who your priority is just hitting one button as fast as possible and then doing a special animation over and over again. It's maybe a slightly less interesting loop for players.
But so here's my thought on that, though. I think the reason why that's a mistake isn't because they were unable to execute their plan. I think it feels clear to me what their plan was. I think the problem is with their plan. When you make a game less fun, that's bad.
Yeah.
So if they made a game where the defensive character was superpowered, that would be a problem. He wasn't. So that, to me, that's not an issue.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have somebody who's winning over and over, but it takes a lot of time, I also don't have a problem with that. So somebody who's actually doing supers over and over and over again is actually spending a lot of time in the game. Yeah, right. So it's not like they're mowing through people and they're somehow able to really get through the multiplayer sort of leaderboards really fast. So I think nerfing him like that was a mistake. Like they succeeded in creating somebody interesting, like you said, that had really different mechanics that you had to think about in a different way without being so overpowered that you could just spend a few minutes a day and overwhelm the leaderboard, like generate a huge amount of battle points.
Yeah. I think there's also other things that they could have done that I would have been more interested in. Like, I think having the specials be a percentage of your health makes sense to me.
Right.
But I would have liked it better if the specials were anchored at a number that was a percentage of your base health at a given level.
Right.
So, for example, by adding healing gears.
Yeah. Or
not healing gears. Max health gears or health augmentations would allow you to do more specials. That to me would be more interesting and compelling because
100%.
The idea that at every level, at a base stat, he could do a certain number of special ones before knocking himself out. That to me makes sense. But I think the way that it almost disincentivizes doing anything else to his health doesn't make as much sense to me.
Right.
And I do think that sort of that countdown in order to build up the power feels like I get what they were trying to do with it, right? The idea of making there be time, ebb and flow, making you participate more in the actual combat, right? As opposed to just using specials over and over and over again. But I think the putting it on a timer makes it feel a little bit muddier. Like the game feel of it is worse enough to the point where I don't know exactly what the answer would be if they're trying to both do the thing that they're clearly trying to do with that change and make it feel good. But I think what they did do ended up making it feel a lot worse.
Right. And I don't know that, again, I agree with you. I don't think there's necessarily a number, but I think that by playing it, you can get a feel for it. And I think the cost of making it take time is too much when you also take into account how much health is used and the fact that you cannot regenerate any health at all.
Yeah.
So there's clearly a balance. I mean, even if they made it regenerate faster, or even, get this, what if they only made it drop down to whatever you used
from full and then regenerate from there?
Instead of 0, right? Because I think 0 is what makes it really bad. It makes sense if you use a super, sure. Use a special one? No way. You should be able to use, like if you have full power, you can use 3 special ones immediately, one right after another. And he's actually worse than that.
I almost think one thing that would be interesting would be something along the lines of every time he attacks, he generates like power like for his bar at like 10 times or like 15 times the rate that you expect to. So like one combo would be enough to get you up to full power. And then you allow it to use it. So it's similar to a timer, but it makes it active and based off of something that you're doing, right?
I would like that less.
You think you would like that less?
I
Getting
think
any hits in instead of waiting a timer? Like maybe like a tap combo would give you full power worth?
Yeah, I would like that less only because the timing of basic attacks interferes there's lag and interruptions when the opponent can do something. Like after you've done a special, the opponent's ability to do a basic attack is actually prioritized over yours.
I guess so. See, there'd be differences, and then the problem is that you're not getting as much of what the point of the character is, which is the fact that you don't need to generate power standard, right? So it is, it's hard.
To me, the really basic thing they could do that would be completely fair, that wouldn't seem unreasonable, would be let him just use the power and only regenerate from the level that he used up. Like it's awful to me that somebody who uses health for specials that can't regenerate his health still can't do 3 special ones immediately after each other, which anybody else could when they have full bars of power. So,
okay. Last week, I know I ended it off with saying I had sort of a story. I don't remember the original context of what it was, but I remember what I was going to talk about.
Sure.
I think it was somebody doing kind of like a old person thing, or something that is more typical of like a retiree, but at my age.
Oh, sorry. When you say doing an old person thing, you mean like there's so many that's so broad.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying I don't remember how I finished it off last week, but I'll tell you it and then you'll hear it out.
All right.
Which is that my friend, so there's a beach in Toronto. So we're in the greater Toronto area. We're in the general vicinity, right? So people I know have relationships and histories with different parts of the city, right? In the general area. But so there's a beach that recently in the GTA got sold back, or is getting sold to the municipality.
Oh, I hadn't heard
from the government.
Okay. Wait, sold back to municipality from what, the provincial government?
From, I think it's federal.
Oh, it's
either provincial or federal, but they're selling it to the municipality.
Okay.
And so my friend initially just heard that they were selling like half the beach off. And she was like, why are they doing that? That sounds like it sucks, right? Like I hate that because I used to go to the beach and like, half the beach, they're selling all the good stuff. Yeah. And so she was like, this seems like it's going to be bad, but the information for their plan wasn't as good online. So she contacted her local representative and was like, what's the building plan for this stuff?
Right.
And then is in like a back and forth. So the context for this, she's doing all the extra work of like contacting her local representative. She's emailing, she's looking up like what his like personal history is and his like policy history. And she's like, so we're like at the like kitchen table. And she's like, oh, he like I forget what the term is, but there's supposed to be a third party governing organization that's supposed to independently look into and sort of keep politicians honest.
Oh, I know what you mean.
There's a name for it's a
like
role.
Ombudsman?
It's not like a ombudsman. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she was like,
it's not just a government. They do that for a lot of different sort of big things.
So she was looking at ombudsman reports and being like, this guy has been accused of impropriety and stuff. And it's like, and now he's selling off our stuff. But it was just so clearly to me, like what felt like, you know, when people retire and they have enough time on their hands that they're reading the reports, that they're contacting people.
They're going down rabbit holes.
And I'm not saying this in a negative sense, because I think actually by doing those things, you are becoming politically engaged in a way that makes your voice more likely to be heard.
You are participating in strengthening democracy.
Yeah. But what it normally is it's unfair and unevenly distributed because it's people who have time and resources on their hand, which is why it becomes that stereotype of like, oh, this is something that like
old people or rich people,
a retiree who loves to complain does, right? Because it's an opportunity for their complaints to be heard. But I think like objectively, that's why you end up with the types of people who are willing to make trouble, that politicians know that you're going to be voting based off of how things are resolved, that you are going to be contacting them, that they will have to deal with you in some way
Right.
on the basis of their decisions, that the demographics who are more likely to reach out are the ones who are more likely to actually be listened to and have like steps taken to
Right.
address their concerns, because they're the people who are, you know, active, right? They're the,
Sure.
they're the people who are visible and who care about how things go. And so I'm like, it's kind of nice to have this friend who's, you know, my age, working,
Sure.
you know, who's going through all the
Who's
documents,
engaged.
reading the plans, and is engaged.
Yeah.
As long as you actually take those next steps of being kind of annoying, right? This is one of those scenarios where I think like you have more political power when you are annoying, right?
Sure.
And that is why a lot
Or
of
to me, the flip side is wielding political power requires time.
Mhm. That's true. But it's the resources that you have and that you spend.
Yeah.
So I just thought, I forget the exact context of why I wanted to bring it up last week, but I thought it was a little funny. It also gave us, we were riffing for a very extended period of time about the ways that you start the email, because like another thing that she saw when she was looking into this guy, she was like, I don't like this guy. I don't like what he's doing. Did you hear his family? He's been taken to family court for improper handling of estate funds from one of his family members dying. And so I was like, you got to email and go like, you know, hey Doug, heard about your family court, not going so well for you, is it? Anyways, I think you're making a mistake with the beach, right? But there was...
Now, if it literally is Doug, that's provincial.
It's not Doug.
Okay. You
I
just
inserted
used
the
that
name. I inserted a name, and then I realized that Doug Ford is also currently the provincial
Right.
representative here.
Right.
But I guess that's a long and short way of saying get engaged as
I think
much
it's
as you
the
have
only
resources
long way.
for it. It's a very long way.
It's not a short way.
Well, this is the short way of saying it, which is that if you have the opportunity, if there's stuff that you care about,
Yeah.
be annoying about it and dig in according to your resources.
Okay. So I think there's even a bigger lesson there too, is that you can make a difference. So that it means that it's worthwhile spending the time that you've got.
Well,
if
I don't
something
know.
matters
I
to
don't
you.
know if the lesson is you can make a difference. I don't know if she's made a difference yet. But the other thing too is that
Well, if you don't believe it, then you wouldn't want to do it, even if you cared about something.
But the other thing too is that their documents, they were talking big about how they wanted to do like a tourism revival. They wanted to bring in, you know, tourists, and they have like this long description of some like high value tourists where they're like people who contribute to the culture, who spend money, who spend time, whatever. And the more you read, the more it's clear they want people with a lot of money to show up and spend money.
Sure.
Which is not like a really interesting or meaningful claim, right? Like they sort of dress it in the themes of we want people who will contribute and engage with the local culture, and they just mean people who have a lot of money who will spend a lot of money. The more you look at it,
Who will put money into the community.
and they wanted to do development, and what it seems like is they want to do like beachfront properties that can be Airbnb'd out, which is like one of those things. Well, it's like it's not actually nice for the area, right? You're taking a public beach and you're turning it into housing. Meant to be expensive. Short-term housing that is meant to appeal to tourists and like people who want to purchase it as an investment.
So not members of the community.
Yeah.
It's going to be just more volume, more density without actual... I mean, this is the problem, right? This is the complaint against renters sometimes compared to homeowners, is that renters will care to a certain degree less than homeowners, and short-term renters are going to care even less.
Yeah. So it's, and you know, places need tourism money, right? I'm not saying that that's not a fair concern. I'm not saying that that's not a goal that you could be working towards, but it is kind of sad when you talk about something that is a public space for people and you want to turn it into exclusively sort of a revenue generating thing that, if anything, is... It's potentially good for a very small portion of people, right? Which are business owners, and you know, small business owners, local business owners, which is not a bad thing, but is on the balance, it seems like more detrimental to a higher volume of people. And specifically, it seems like the consideration for who it's beneficial to is primarily people who have capital and investment capital, which is not most people, right? Which is it's unfortunate. Okay, do you want to answer it?
Oh, on a happier note, this is because sometimes we like to talk about current events to sort of fix these episodes in time. The Blue Jays just beat Seattle Mariners last night. in Game 7 of the American League Championship Series.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be facing Los Angeles of the highest payroll Dodgers to in the World Series starting Friday. And Toronto's got the home field advantage because they had the better record.
Nice.
Not by much, one game. And it's interesting, right? Because Los Angeles is being seen as sort of the heavy favorite to win, like heavily favored to win. Yeah. But Los Angeles came in as wild card. So I think in the short series, in a small sample size of games, almost anything can happen. And I think both teams are good enough that we're going to be given the opportunities to watch some really competitive games.
Actually, one more real life thing. I guess maybe I'll talk about it next week. I saw it only because you're mentioning the Blue Jays game.
Yeah.
Because I actually was downtown, not yesterday, but 2 days ago.
Yeah. That was Game 6. I went Game 6.
And so I saw the aftermath of that when the Jays won.
Right.
And everybody hanging out because I was at Scotiabank Arena because I saw Leve in concert with my girlfriend.
And it was good.
It was good. She's quite a performer. So maybe I'll save talking about that for another week because we want to answer some amount of questions.
Something?
Something.
Sure.
Plus, well, whatever. We'll get through some questions.
Okay.
So this first one comes from totally_Ryo, RYO. They say, I find it rather funny that you mentioned this, and there's a timestamp for 22 seconds in, considering the subtitles can get confused and think people said hot girl instead. And this is us talking about Hawk Girl on the weekly...
Hawk
The girl. Weekly recaps, yeah. Well, it's one of those things where it's hard to pronounce. It's not... The way that...
The word is designed in a way that makes it easy to pronounce ambiguously.
The way that North American English works for native speakers is that you'll shorten syllables, you'll sort of eat parts of the pronunciation, and that Hawk Girl is one of those things that you have to say kind of like you are hearing it for the first time and you're having to sound it out in order to not make it sound ambiguous what you're trying to say.
Right. It's the hard consonants coming right up against each other, right?
Yeah. Hawk Girl.
Right.
Because you can't really say that fast. You can't say Hawk Girl, right?
There's a pause. There's a breath in order to separate those two hard sounds, yeah. So I guess that was funny. It's it's funny two ways. That one, some people are listening, and two, that it's a connection that others might have already made. We're not so smart.
Or if you're reading the subtitles. I mean, we've talked about it before, though. We've talked about it.
It's been so long. The separation for me between real life and YouTube is quite blurred.
But we're not talking about Hawk Girl that much in real life.
It's true.
I think the other thing, too, is that there's stuff that is more and less important to you. Yeah. And there's some stuff that you just don't remember. I remember very distinctly, and I was talking about this not too long ago, there was a movie that we watched called Sorry to Bother You. And
yeah. Okay.
But when we talked about it, I think it was either you or my mom who did not remember us watching it at all.
I remembered watching it.
You remember watching it. Oh, yeah. But I was like telling her, and she was like, I have no recollection of this whatsoever. It's a pretty weird movie.
It is. Well, it starts off less weird. It starts off a little bit weird, and then it ends really weird.
It starts off where there's elements of absurdism. There's clearly, it's...
But at the end, it goes way over the top. Like, it just sort of lets go of any kind of grounding in reality.
Yeah, for anybody who doesn't know, Sorry to Bother You, the easiest way to pitch it is sort of the way that they did it in their ads, which is it's a guy who starts working for, like, a telemarketer, right?
Yeah.
And somebody one day, so he's a black man, and I'm not just saying that. It's very important to the story.
Plot, yeah.
It's Afro-surrealism.
I sure hope that's relevant.
Yeah, that's the James Acaster joke. But so it's a Afro-surrealist movie, and a key plot point is that at some point somebody tells him to start using his white voice,
right? And
when he does, right, it's just for him to sound white over the phone so that people will respond better to him,
right?
He literally gets dubbed over, so it's Lakeith Stanfield is the actor, is the main character, and his white voice is David Cross, dubbing him over.
Right.
They're
Tobias Funke.
Yeah, they're both actors that I quite love. Lakeith Stanfield. Lakeith Stanfield has been in several Afro absurdist projects. He was in Atlanta, which is quite good, and he was also in the Eric Andre show, which is not quite the same thing, but there's a definite like tinge of absurdism there. I think Lakeith Stanfield is a guy who you put him in something. I haven't seen any project with him in it that I did not both like the project and specifically really like his performance. I think he's a really good actor who is often casted to his specific strengths in a way that I quite enjoy.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, so that's the part of the movie that you said is less weird, right? That's the part where you just said it's a little strange, but it's not totally absurd. So it's a very memorable movie. Yeah. And so I was shocked when she was like, I have no recollection of having seen this. She's like, are you sure that was with me? I'm like, yeah, I'm 100% sure it was with you. But I think it is funny what you remember and what you forget. I think you always, it's unknown unknowns when you forget something. Because there's known knowns, unknown knowns, known unknowns, and unknown unknowns. So it's whether or not you're aware of it. So like something that you know without realizing it is...
I have no idea what you just said.
So a known known is something that you know and something that you are aware of. It's a piece of information. I know how to use the software Audacity to record audio, right? Then there's an unknown known, which is something that you don't realize that you know. So if somebody asks you for a fact and then you can tell them, you go, oh, I wouldn't have thought that I remembered that, right? If you're given like physics homework from somebody, like a high school student's physics homework, and you go, oh yeah, I can do that. And you go, oh, I didn't even realize I retained any of my like physics class from high school, right? So that's known knowns and unknown knowns. And then there's known unknowns. There's things that you know that you don't know. So I know that I can't do computer engineering, right?
So the ideas make sense when you explain them. The issue to me is that it's almost like one of those tongue twisters, right?
Yeah.
And like, she sells seashells by the seashore. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck of a woodchuck would? I heard a really good one, and I don't remember the last part. It was in Cantonese.
Yeah.
And it was about the way that certain words, if you're not trained to listen to it, make absolutely no sense. It sounds like just the same thing over and over. So it started off, and I don't even remember the last part. It was go, that, go, brother. Mm-hmm. Go, or cross that, something like it was go, like
just with different like tonalities.
But to me, I'm listening to it. I said, no, but that's obvious. The difference. I could totally hear it. Like I understand exactly what they're trying to get at.
Yeah,
I think it's funny that part of it just when you're saying that is that I guess my brain is not wired to hear known knowns, known unknowns, unknown knowns, known unknown unknowns. Like it's just it felt like my brain was getting fried.
Mm-hmm. So the point is that things that you have forgotten are unknown unknowns, right?
Right.
So you don't they're not part of your mental model for things that you know and things that you don't.
Right.
Because you
not
don't
conscious. Yeah. Not consciously. Yeah.
You're not aware of the fact that you've forgotten something. Right. Because if you were aware of it, you would probably at least hold parts of it. It wouldn't be completely forgotten. Right?
Right.
So I think whenever you're estimating, how much you remember versus how much you forget, unless you're coming up very frequently against instances of things you've forgotten,
right?
Unless it's being made salient to you, you have no real sense, right? Like if I asked you to estimate what percentage, if you were able to sort of evaluate everything you know and turn it into like, I know 100,000 things or whatever, what percentage of that you've forgotten, right? Like I've learned 150,000 things. I've kept 100,000 of them. I've forgotten 50,000. I think we would be really, really bad at estimating what proportion of stuff we've forgotten. Right?
For sure.
What would you say if you had to just off the top
of
your head?
I don't know. Like most of the time when I make a guess at something like that, I've got some sort of framework for guessing.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm sure I've forgotten a ton, but I don't know. I think there's so much that it would be triggered by just a reminder.
Yeah.
That I think those fall under the
unknown knowns.
Right, unknown knowns.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably smaller than I would be if I had to put a number to it. It's probably a smallish kind of number.
Yeah.
Because I think I can be very easily sort of
re-cued.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the cueing is the hard part. Coming up with information spontaneously for me is actually harder. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. So that's anyways.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think the known and unknown, knowns and unknowns it's a good model for thinking about stuff, and it is kind of like a weird thing to talk about or wrap your head around because it's the same word a lot of times.
Right.
I saw there's a woman named Jordan. She was used to be the lead singer of the Key of Awesome, and now she's a content creator. She was always a content creator, but she's continued to be a content creator. Or not the Key of Awesome. Sorry. Oh my goodness. They did the 4 chord song. I forget what they were called.
I have no idea.
Doesn't matter. Where she developed a system for describing all people based off of the Spice Girls.
Oh.
And so, it was a 2-axis thing. So you would call somebody like a sporty scary, and the first one was like their core, and then the second one was sort of a modifier. And then there was like, then if you had 2 of the same, they would be called something like true posh, like a double sport.
Right,
or
so
something
that's like
like
a
that.
variation of like chaotic good, neutral good, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I don't remember, like that sort of grid, right? You know what I mean?
The axis of awesome, not the key of awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she was like, yeah, so you could be a scary sporty or a posh scary, right? And there was all the different ways that you could describe any person by the combination of 2 Spice Girls in order, and that was much more descriptive than any sort of other personality metrics. Yeah, chaotic good, that's the alignment chart, the D&D alignment chart.
Right.
Where you have neutral, chaotic, and lawful, and then you have
lawful, that's
good, neutral, and evil. Yeah.
Right. Okay. One more question?
Okay.
Not a question, comment.
So Villy H9B says, I thought this game was dead.
And I guess if you're going to look at, I mean, and my original thought was, yeah, it probably is. It depends on how you define dead, right? At some point, if they stop supporting the servers, that would be one level of death. But until they actually remove it from the store, which is a level that maybe won't happen, then it might never die. And the other ways to judge is based on the number of people that if it falls
Player
below
count,
a critical number of people that changes the flavor of multiplayer, then yeah, I mean at some point it will die, I think. Yeah. So it's wild to me. It almost ridiculous how long it has survived considering what the sort of life expectancy, the life cycle
of a game like this.
Of most games, most mobile games. Like how long do mobile games survive?
It depends so much on a variety of factors. I think especially it really, I think, depends a lot on community. Because I think the surviving or dying is mostly based off of sort of what this person is talking about, and why we're sort of evidence that it's not dead is external community, right? Having a space to talk about and engage with other people about something.
Right.
And so we are in some way making this game feel less dead to this person, even though, there's some days where our channel feels like it's a little dead, right? In terms of,
for sure,
getting a 24-hour period with 0 comments, right? So it's all proportional, right? It's all relative.
For sure.
But I think the thing is that if you've got people, we're not enough to keep a game alive. But we're enough to keep talking and to keep posting stuff, even if nobody's really watching it anymore, right?
Right.
Stuff can only really die as much as you let it, as long as you've got at least one other person there with you, right? You can have enough community with anybody else around.
So by that, I mean, depending on what definition you pick, then it could almost never die, or it might already be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Words are squishy. It depends on what you mean.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, to finish up, we'd like to give a huge thank you to our lovely patrons on Patreon. That is Michael Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, Hoshi127, Nora Klimek, and Miguel, who are supporting us on the credited level. I'd also like to give a huge thank you to all of you for supporting us however you do. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.
Komoda.